Hey, record loving friends, it's Brian from TokyoRecordStyle, coming to you today with a little story I want to tell you. Now, I need to start off by telling you that I joined a live stream panel yesterday. I hope you guys are following Rob at Northern Revolutions and Daryl, who are live streaming from the Great White North on their local Wednesday nights, my Thursday mornings. And I like to tune in. They have a really great vibe and rapport, and it's fun. I got to come on panel a long time ago when I had a Thursday morning off. And this week, it happens to be summer holiday in Japan, and I also had the morning off. So I hopped on the panel yesterday, and it was really fun. We talked about records that had places. They were either albums about places, songs about places, and from the places that we could compile songs and albums from our collection, we could make like a summer holiday trip. That was the sort of idea put forth by Daryl. It was a really great idea. I only remembered to hop on the stream at the very last minute. I volunteered myself the week before. I just got the prompt at the very last minute. I forgot to mail Rob, and it all kind of came together at the very last minute. I only had a couple minutes to go through my records and find songs that had places in them or on them. It wasn't that hard because so many records have tunes with street names or city names or the name of lakes or ephemeral places under the bridge, all kinds of ideas of place. So I just kind of randomly grabbed some records. And one of them that I grabbed evoked a story out of me that I'd kind of forgotten about that I wanted to retell on this video. And something kind of unexpectedly happened, and it was super fun. I want to share it with you. So it starts with this record, Grateful Dead's 1981 Dead Set, which is a live recording of songs across several concerts in two different cities, at the Warfield in San Francisco and at Radio City Music Hall. And the Dead, I think, just prior to a couple tours prior to these 1981 shows were the Giant Wall of Sound shows, the Giant Wall of Sound era, where they sort of changed the landscape of concerts, and they made this incredible, very high fidelity sound system for their audience. And it changed how we listen to music as an audience in a concert venue, and how the musicians on stage hear themselves playing. PA systems at venues around the world were changed because of this. So the Dead were very influential in that way. But for these shows, they did basically residencies at the Warfield. Bill Graham presents. I think he's part of the production crew on this. And I'm not sure if Bill Graham was in charge of Radio City at the time. Probably not. I'm guessing that's the city of New York. But for these residencies, I've heard them talk about how nice it was to set up gear and not have a redundant truck going to the next city to set up another stage for the next night, and then leapfrogging every couple of days. It was an opportunity for them to stop and leave their stuff set up overnight for the next night and the next night and for the duration of the residency. And each night, the band and the technicians and the engineers got everything a little bit more dialed in, and they said that it was super great. It was like the best sounding shows ever because of that fact, because there wasn't like new cables and new power every other night. So for that reason, it's really cool. So I think they did about 2 weeks at the Warfield, and then they did a couple of more weeks at Radio City. And what was cool is that I found this record. I think I've owned it a couple of times, not that long ago. And I think probably the reason I bought it was because, hey, it's 4 sides of Live Dead on wax, and it's great. And I think I saw it for a really cheap price. And so I thought I couldn't pass it up. And it had the hype sticker on it, which says here, a definitive specially priced double album by the Dead, live electronic performances of 15 Grateful Dead classics recorded live in New York City and San Francisco. Includes Friend of the Devil, Deal, New Minglewood Blues, Fire on the Mountain, and Candyman. And what was interesting is that I bought it in the shrink, and it's a gatefold, which means that the person who owned it before me decided to cut the record opening side, leaving the shrink wrap on, and leaving the hype sticker on it. That's how I bought it, right? And I was showing it on Northern Revolution on Rob's show, and Rob was saying that's sacrilegious to have that the shrink still on it. You can't see the gatefold. You should free the music, rip it and strip it, or something, he said. And I thought, but it's from 1981 that's been preserved so perfectly, and it's the hype sticker. And I did notice one point, actually, that it didn't have that kind of crinkly effect that sometimes shrink gets on them if it's really old. And I noticed there was like a little perfectly placed cellophane tape right here on the edges. I suspect that helped keep the shrink quite nice. You'll notice that the shrink is no longer on it. And I recalled that scene from the movie Sideways. Do you guys remember the 2004 Paul Giamatti movie Sideways? It's a fun story about two middle-aged guys who are kind of on a misadventure. One of them's getting married, and they go to wine country in California, and Paul Giamatti's got his 1961 Cheval Blanc prize possession, his prize bottle of wine, and he's saving it for this perfect occasion. And he's writing a manuscript, and he's waiting to open this bottle of wine, this very special, precious vintage, until he, like, the right moment or something like this. Maybe when he gets his manuscript accepted by the publisher or something like that. Throughout the entire movie, he's carrying around the bottle of wine. Throughout the process of the movie and closing towards the end, he finally finds himself in a fast food restaurant, and he has a little bit of an existential crisis, and he thinks, like, now or never, like, seize the day, carpe diem, and into a styrofoam cup that he's just dumped his soft drink out of, he just decides to rip open the 1961 Cheval Blanc, and he pours it into the styrofoam cup, and he savors his delicious wine. And it's this little ode to not letting opportunities pass us by, and then right after that, all of his dreams come true. It's really fun. I thought, yeah, it's not right that this album is just kept in the shrink wrap all of these years. Some 40 years it's been in the shrink, and I was pressured, but I wanted to do it, and so Rob said, do it. And so I took the shrink wrap off of it, and I preserved the sticker, I preserved the hype sticker, and it's going to live inside the thing. But what I got to do is I got to open this album and see these great images inside here at maybe Radio City Music Hall or the Warfield. You can't really tell by the picture. 1981, Jerry Garcia was 38 years old. They were quite young and sprightly even at 38, even though Jerry had his, like, gray hair and everything. They sound great. I listened to this yesterday, and it was so good. And probably a lot of the tapes that I collected back in the day, they were probably around this era. This is maybe like my favorite era of Grateful Dead. I love Primal Dead Baby slightly more than this, but they sound so good. I think Brent Medlin had just joined the band in the hot seat on keys. He's not really overpowering with his voice that's rubs people a little bit wrong. And you can just see, like, just from the expressions on their faces, everybody's, like, having a great time. Jerry here looking almost like that MTV video where he's about to have his We Will Survive Touch of Grey hit. Kreutzmann and Mickey looking really cool. There's more pictures on the inside where they're wearing Grateful Dead t-shirts. I love that about the Dead. They were so into their logos and their Steelies and their Berthas, and they wore them on t-shirts. Phil with his goofy glasses and his ornery look, and Brent here with his long hair, and our recently lost Bobby here. So a very groovy thing, and I was very happy to see this, and I was very happy to show it off on Rob's show. But what I didn't think about was looking at the front side of the gatefold until after the show was over, and I wanted to show it here. And this is a really cool design with our kind of protagonist here, and then you kind of wonder what's going on here. What are we looking at? You see the Brooklyn Bridge here, and here's Manhattan and Radio City Music Hall, and it comes over here to this little island, and then here's the Golden Gate Bridge, and here is San Francisco and the iconic buildings of downtown San Francisco and maybe the Bay Bridge. So they've put together this really cool two-city illustration that I really didn't quite appreciate while I was enjoying these photos on the inside. So that's really cool. I was very happy to share that. Very groovy. I'm glad that I got to see that. And I wouldn't have gotten to notice that if I hadn't thought to open the gatefold. The inside has some more great pictures. The amazing mixing board. This is the, like, Betty board, maybe. Betty Cantor was the one who, I think, mixed and mastered these. She had the famous recordings, the famous Betty boards. Yeah, more photos of the band. Jerry he's playing the Tiger guitar here. All of his guitars had different names and different designs. And you can see Kreutzmann here wearing a Steely shirt. And Bobby's got his polo on. And Brent, he's already cut his hair off here. What? Did he cut his hair between shows? Interesting. I wonder. Yeah, very groovy. So while I was looking for songs to satisfy the prompt on the live stream, looking for places, I saw Samson and Delilah, a great tune to open the show here. Friend of the Devil, a really slowed down, sublime version of the song. New Minglewood Blues. Minglewood, that must be a place. I thought, okay, maybe that'll suffice. Candyman. And boom, I remembered a Candyman. I'll come back to it. Little Red Rooster, beloved classic done by Bobby. Loser, super sad minor tune. Last Fair Deal about a guy who loses his fortune in gambling. Side 3, Passenger, Feel Like a Stranger. And then Franklin's Tower, There Hangs a Bell. And Rhythm Drums, Rhythm Devils it's called here. And then side 4 is Space. And then Fire on the Mountain, a reggae song practically. Greatest Story Ever Told, a hot one from Bobby. And then it closes with Broke Down Palace. And the tune I want to focus in on is Candyman. Candyman is a very cool, slow, soulful song about guy, I think, who comes into Memphis. He's coming to, when I rolled into Memphis, I learned to talk the jive. I had the great fortune, I think it was in 1994, to kind of run away on a Dead tour. And I got to see half a dozen, 8 shows on this southern leg of a spring tour. I saw a show in Memphis that was unforgettable. They were playing at the Pyramid on the Mississippi River. I don't know if the pyramid is still standing, but it's a giant pyramid, like the pyramids of Giza or like the Luxor in Vegas. And inside the venue, you are in a giant pyramid. It's very crazy and cool. And everybody was very excited to be there. I doubt the Dead played there more than once or more than a couple of times. I will never forget, Jerry Garcia was such a thing to behold. I was pretty close. I could make him out and see all the details about him, and everybody was completely locked in on him. It was such enigma of a thing to see. It was so crazy. They played Tennessee Jed. Tennessee, Tennessee, ain't no place I'd rather be. Baby, won't you carry me back to Tennessee? And the whole audience was going absolutely berserk. Super, super fun. At that point, I was only 17. It was the most exciting show I'd ever been to in my life. I thought the place was going to fall down. There was so much energy in the room. And then came on this slow number, Candyman, which I knew, but I didn't really completely understand what was about to happen. And the lyrics are, come on, boys, and wager, if you've got the mind, if you've got a dollar bill, lay it on the line. And the tension's growing. Hand me my old guitar. Tension's growing and growing. It's palpable. Pass the whiskey round. The audience is just, woo! And Jerry's singing and soloing at the same time. Won't you tell everybody you meet that the Candyman's in town? And the whole audience just explodes with joy. It was such an amazing moment. Jerry puts up this fist bump. It was so awesome and unforgettable. A great, great, formative core memory from my youth. I was so fortunate to get the chance to see the Dead and to see him in Memphis and to see him do this song Candyman. And I just want to send another thank you out to Rob for encouraging me to pull the shrink wrap off of this. So, The Dead, one of my all-time favorites. I haven't listened to them in a long time. I used to live my life by The Dead. I used to listen to all their songs. I lived for half a year in a Volkswagen bus that had a sticker on the back of it that said, who are the Dead and why are they following me? I ended up seeing them a dozen times or so, and it was amazing, and I'm so fortunate for those days. I kind of came to The Dead and the band who inherited their legacy at the same time, Phish. I fell in love with Phish and I fell in love with Dead basically the same summer, like when we were freshmen in high school or something like that. I loved them in parallel, and I didn't really see them as being the same thing, and yet there was this continuity and through both of them. But I don't think they ever thought much of the other than an immense amount of respect and admiration, especially the Phish guys to the Dead guys who sort of paved the road for the traveling circus idea that the Phish from Vermont ended up playing out. You know, I got to thinking about this, and this is where it's funny. In this Volkswagen bus, this orange pop-top Westphalia Volkswagen bus that I owned for 15 years and lived in for about a year. Super amazing memories. In 1996, Phish came out with a record called Billy Breathes. Billy Breathes was a record that has a ridiculous cover of bassist Mike Gordon here on the cover. It's kind of an afterthought, but don't let this speak for the music that's on here. I almost hesitate to say that because Phish are a little goofy in that way that the Dead really weren't, but they did have something that bound them. Anyway, when this record came out, the Phish boys were probably 32 or 33. They too were no longer 20-something-year-olds, and they had each had a couple of kids by now, and they had a giant entourage and, you know, legion of fans that were following them around. They'd been to Europe. Had they been to Japan yet? Maybe not. But they had, been on dozens and dozens of successful tours for over a decade. Phish started in 83. We're in 96. And I completely remember the summer that this album came out and the moment that I listened to this I think on the cassette deck in the Volkswagen hippie bus. And I can remember listening to it from beginning to end. It has the most powerful opening track, Free, which opens a lot of shows. It's a blissful tune about freedom. Just one that you want to have the windows rolled down and screaming at the top of your lungs as you sing along, blasting down the highway. A great freedom feeling tune. Character Zero, another anthem. Free often opens shows and Character Zero often closes shows. Waste, Come Waste Your Time With Me, a beautiful ballad that lots of Phish heads will play at their wedding. It's this really sentimental tune. Taste and Theme from the Bottom are two massive vehicles for jam. They are two great examples of Phish at their fishiest. Both of these songs in a live show have the opportunity to go absolutely enormous and I think are really representative of the sound of the band. Cars, Trucks, Buses is a great tune by pianist Paige McConnell. Talk is a really nice one. Oh, the drumming on Taste by John Fishman is incredible. Train Song. It feels like a song that you're riding in the countryside of Bohemia on. It's a really interesting tune that has a little but it's a quiet tune. And on our way home, we thought we had a chance to review the and invite him to a new game of cans. Anyway, and then Bliss is a very atmospheric, almost avant-garde soundscape of a song. Billy Breathes is a beautiful little ballad that Trey had written to his daughter. Another interesting couple of moments here. Swept Away and Steep, kind of long, spacey, sonic landscapes that have little elements of almost underwatery bloop, 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 environmental kind of vibes. And then it ends on Prince Caspian, which is an awesome anthem. And I just remember being in that Volkswagen van and hearing the last song on the album and just thinking it was an absolute masterpiece. It was my favorite Phish record up until that moment. There were so many great records that came before this. There are so many great records that came after this, but this is my favorite Phish album. And it's the one I'm going to recommend. If you're Phish curious, this is the one that you ought to get into. This is such a great album, and it's a great moment in Phish history because all the crazy, heady, super composed stuff that preceded this and all of the sort of love and light, we call it, anthem-y, more song, less kind of complex compositions that came after this. This is the crossroads of those two moments, sort of. I can't recommend this enough. Now, this was never pressed on vinyl until 2018 when it was released on Record Store Day. I didn't know about it at the time. I didn't get the memo, and often when I'm sleeping in Japan, everybody's awake in America, and I miss out on chances to get these. And this wasn't a record that made it to Japan. I didn't get the opportunity to buy it when it was first being sold on Record Store Day. So I bought it on the secondary market, and I paid a lot for it, but not an exuberant amount of money. It's probably worth far more than what I paid for it. But believe it or not, I have heard this album so many times. It's one of my all-time favorites. I don't really need to open it almost. I've got copies of it on CD. I think I own it on cassette somewhere. And I was waiting, like Paul Giamatti in Sideways, to open this for a special occasion. I've been waiting to open it. Why? I don't know. But yesterday when I opened the shrink wrap on that Dead Set record, I was so happy. And it brought me so much joy and satisfaction to open it. I wanted to open this one finally, and I wanted to stop waiting because maybe the opportunity won't come, and Carpe Diem, seize the day, now or never. And what I know is on the inside of this album is a photo of a dog. Trey Anastasio, lead guitarist and primary songwriter and leader of the band. His dog Marley. I mentioned Jerry had a guitar with a tiger on it. You can see like the beautiful, what do they call it? The pearl inlay on the guitar. And Trey's guitars are famously made by Paul Languedoc. He's got these beautiful Languedoc guitars, and they often have the pearl inlays on the headstock, and he's got a bunch of different ones, but they're all the sort of same design, and they're a hollow body. They're like hollow like a violin, but they have the neck of like a Strat, sort of. And so it's this kind of combo where the hollow body allows him to get this amazing sustain that I don't think you can get out of a Strat, really. And when he's standing in front of his amp, you'll see him moving in certain ways, and depending on where he is, he'll get this crazy feedback from because he knows exactly how this guitar is made and what it will do with the resonance. One of the guitars is the Mar guitar. His dog was called Marley. Marley's long gone. Rest in peace, Marley. But I know that Marley's on the inside of this gatefold, and I want to see him. And also, there's a painting that was inspired by this, looks like photocopy machine cover of Mike Gordon's face. The reason I want to see this dog is because I want to open this up for another video that I want to make for my homie Mark Morris, who is celebrating the 10-year birthday of his dog, Elsa. And he's put a little vinyl tag forward for his dog. Records with dogs on the covers or songs about dogs. And there's a dog in here. So I wanted to commemorate this moment of opening this record like Paul Giamatti, where he's drinking the wine under the table in the styrofoam cup. So here we go with my little Spyderco knife. God forbid anything goes wrong. And I'll keep the hype sticker here. I'll read it. Billy Bree's 6th studio album, available for the first time on vinyl, 2 LPs, 180-gram download card inside on the Jemp label. Phish has their own label, Jemp. And this is produced by Steve Lillywhite. So of so many legendary albums, and it's embossed 3023, which I'm guessing probably they made, I don't know, 5,000 of these, so it's kind of middle of the run. There we go. Nice. Sayonara shrink wrap. Billy Breathes. Trey's daughter's nickname is Billy, and this was just shortly after she was born. And this was made just shortly after she was born. Oh, it's the same as the dead. It's going to have like a new book, open crackly sound. Little ASMR. Oh, no, it didn't have it. Dun, da, da, da. Okay, there you go. Groovy. There's probably a cool book inside. So here's this crazy painting. Here's somebody with a very strange finger and pointing at Marley here, who you sometimes see like, you know, on the road with Phish, and here they are on a photo shoot. These are Polaroid photos. This is probably Danny Clinch. This is black vinyl. Groovy. Red on one side and white on the other. I'm happy that this is open because I've been wanting to play this for a really, really long time. So I'm going to encourage you to go check out Billy Breeze from 1996, and I too am going to go for a listen. So Mark Morris, wait for your video. It's coming soon. I'm looking forward to making it. Happy birthday, Elsa. Like and subscribe. And thank you to Rob at Northern Revolutions and his homie Daryl for inspiring me to open up that dead set. And thank you to the Dead, and thank you to the Phish for being such amazing bands and giving me such amazing memories of music and of concerts and core memories of my life. I feel so fortunate and grateful for that. So thank you. All right. Until next time. See you at the turntables. Okay, bye.